The what I hope to give you yet again, like we did last week in Parshas Yisro, is a word for the Shabbos table, right? Just think of how many people around the world are studying the Torah portion on a weekly basis, and you'll get a word for the table. But the KLM's slice of it is, I hope to give you a mitzvah for life, a word for the table and a mitzvah for life. Now, we're using the book, as we said, Eved HaMelech, and we're getting a servant of the King of Kings view of the Torah portion. And one of the features I thought would be fascinating for you to know is how many mitzvahs are delineated in the Parshas. Yisro, where the Ten Commandments came, had 78 mitzvahs. Now we come to Parshas Mishpatim. Ready for this? I hope you're sitting down. 154 mitzvahs are contained in this Parsha. Okay, so as not to overwhelm you, we're going to do one. Okay, we're going to get a word for the Shabbos table on this verse, and then we'll see a mitzvah for life from the very same verse. Let's get started. So I'm going to show you the pasuk in the Torah, and maybe I'll just tell you what the key word here. It's a word that in translation is recognized around the world ever since the Torah came out. And that word is called holiness in English, holy. In Torah, it's called kadosh, kedusha, kiddush. That's the Hebrew word for what is translated as holy. What we need to know is, what does holy mean and what difference does it make? Okay, we're going to see both. Let's go. So I want to show you the source in the Torah. Is that good? Do you see it?
Yeah, that's great.
Wonderful. Okay. So for those of you who want to know the exact location, this is in the second book of the 5 books of Moshe Shmos, and it's in Parshas Mishpatim, which is, as we see, hundreds of laws. Moshe, after he if you don't know a lot about Judaism and Torah, you think of the Ten Commandments, right? And Charleston Heston, whoever he was, you think of that. But here we're going to see there's 154. We're not going into them, but there was 154, as I mentioned. Okay, so now we're detailing after Moses comes down from the mountain. Now we're getting into the details. Okay, the angel, by the way, is in the details. Here we go. This pasuk, I'm going to read it in Hebrew and then in English, and then we'll delve in. So it's in chapter 22, pasuk 30, and it says like this: Va'anshe kodesh tihiyun li. This is going to be translated in 2 different ways in a certain sense, right? Let's say people, right? They say people. People of holiness, you shall be for me, or people of holiness, you will be for me. It's all in the delivery. Okay. And then let's just finish the verse. It says, Ubasar basada trefa, and meat of an animal that had its flesh torn. It's called treif by beast. In other words, predators attacked let's say a kosher animal, a cow, and let's say a bear killed a cow. Not killed a cow, that would be a nevela, but it tore the flesh of it in a place where it will die if it doesn't die now. Okay, it's called treif. So treif meat that was found in a field, lo sochlu, don't eat it. But how about this? Do some kindness with it. The kelev tashlichun, throw it to a dog and let a dog enjoy it. The dog doesn't have rules, dietary requirements. Okay, that's the pasuk. But what we want to zoom in on is the first four words, Va'anshe Kodesh Tiyun Li. Okay, first we're starting with the word for the Shabbos table, meaning let's get a deep insight into the divine message that's being delivered here. All right, before we get into the mitzvahs that are embedded in this. Okay, so here we go. Word for the table. So the phrase here, right? People of holiness. We have to define what holy means, and then we have two ways to look at the same word, tihiyun li. Now, if you understand from the oral Torah, and I mentioned this before, that it teaches us that you can find everything in the Torah, okay? Hashem encompassed in the Torah all of Jewish history, all of science, all of history, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You know, I'll give you an example, an amazing example. There's a hospital in Israel that's very well known. It's called Shari Tzedek, the Gates of Righteousness. Shari Tzedek Hospital. My wife gave birth there several times, and it's a very special hospital. And it was built, I think, in the 1940s, 50s. Okay. Who built it? The son of one of the chief rabbis. There was a rabbi named Rev Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld, and he designed the hospital, the architecture for the hospital as it still stands. Okay. Now, that was, like I said, in 1940s and 50s, and it's still standing. Where did he go to architecture school? He didn't. He learned it from the Masechet Eruvin, which talks about domains and structures. He used the Talmud and built a hospital that's still standing. Okay, I'm just trying to say to you, so much is infused in every phrase and word. Okay, so with that, here's what we're going to try to understand. What does Kodesh mean? Holy. This is the definition that I'm going to start with, and then we're going to, pun intended, we're going to elevate that definition. I think the best way to, on the lowest level, it means separated, right? Separated, apart from. But more to the point is distinguished. Okay? Something that holy is distinguished from that which is not holy. So we say, for example, the Sabbath, Shabbat, is holy. It's distinguished from the rest of the week. It's not like the rest of the week. And the concept of Jewish marriage is based on the idea of holy. What does it mean that you mekadesh an isha, a man sanctifies? See, that's another way it's translated. Sanctifies. What is he doing? He's distinguishing his wife from all other women in the world, right? Saying, you are absolutely unique and distinguished. And it's done in a very beautiful way, okay? So it's saying that whatever you're referring to as Kodesh or holy is distinguished, distinct, unique, okay? All good words to say. Now, what's the first message that's being delivered here? When I say the first message, it's one I want you to share with your friends and family, okay? And that is, and it comes from one of our most esoteric books, the Zohar, okay? And just to introduce it, I want you to realize that, one of the hottest topics right now in the world is anti-Semitism. And the reason it is because it's hot right now, okay? And we know that we're hearing reports all around the world and in the college universities, anti-Semitism is spreading. Now, that's a terrible thing. But we believe that there's nothing that Hashem does that's truly terrible, okay, it always is for the ultimate good. So what is it that what's the good thing about anti-Semitism? I hate even saying it, and it's horrible, and no one should do it. That you'll have hell to pay. I promise. I promise there'll be hell to pay for any anti-Semitism. But in Hashem allowing it, what's the good thing? So it reminds people who are Jewish that they're Jewish, right? Now, it's unpleasant, it's startling, it's uncomfortable. And sometimes people throughout the Jews have made the wrong decision about it at times to just try to hide their Judaism, but it just doesn't work. It didn't work in Nazi Germany, Yamach Shemam. Okay, so here's the thing. Suddenly a person says, what's this? Why are the Jews getting this? Why am I getting, what did I do wrong? Right? What did I do wrong? That's what Israel's trying to say. What did we do wrong? We were viciously attacked. Why is this happening? Right? So again, if we don't search to discover our true identity, sometimes it's brought to our attention. Okay, now, here's the surprise, okay? Kodesh means, Hashem means, here, ready? Here's how we're going to translate this. The Anshe Kodesh Tihuli, Hashem is saying, you will be a holy people to me forever and ever. Meaning, you will always be a distinguished to me. Now, what is Hashem saying by us being distinguished? It's really, really beautiful. And I feel like this is this is the ultimate source for a Jewish person to feel a sense of esteem, pride, and joy over being part of the Jewish people. Listen to what the Zohar observes. Is this the first time Hashem has spoken of us as distinguished? No. There are 4 times that the Jews are described by Hashem as a special nation. Okay? I'm going to read them, and I'm going to read what the Zohar says is the message from it. Okay? So it said back in the previous Parsha in Yisro, Va'atem tiyu li mamleches kohanim. You Jewish people will be a kingdom of nobility. You'll be noble men and noble women. All right? Now, the thing is this, the sad thing is when we forget who we are, we end up actually thinking we're like a peasant because the world around us knows we're different and doesn't always look at us in the most positive way. So we absorb such negativity, but we are nobility. You hear that? Nobility. The creator of the world says, you are a kingdom of nobility to me. That's the first thing he says. But look, the Zohar says that, but his love for us is not complete by saying that. He says, it also says you're a goy kadosh. You are a holy people. Okay? So that's the next thing. So he's saying, it's not enough for me to tell you that I look at you as a kingdom. I'm the king, and you are noblemen. You're a kingdom of noblemen yourselves. You're princes and princesses. No, you're holy, meaning, here's again, Hashem says, I distinguish you as you're a distinguished people. And that's an expression of love. But the Zohar says that still doesn't express Hashem's love for us sufficiently. I'm reading the Zohar. This is not my words, okay? So it says after that, the next expression that is Ki Am Kadosh Ata. Again, you are a distinguished nation to me. Why is Hashem repeating this? This is what we have to understand. That's the 3rd time that we've been described as special, noble, distinguished, right? One more. One more is our verse, our pasuk says, "Anshe kodesh yumim." You will be a holy people to me, right? That's okay. Now, here's something to think about. Uh, this reminded me of some poetry that's very famous. Okay, I bet I can start the line and you can finish it. The poet was Elizabeth Barrett Browning, and she said this: "How do I love you? What's next? Let me count the ways." Who hasn't heard of those beautiful words? And then she enumerates the way she loves the loved one, right? So, and it's multiple times basically saying, "I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you." So I once heard this from a Rev Gershenfeld Shlita. He says, "Why do parents nag children?" Okay, nagging is negative in a certain sense, meaning why do they repeat themselves again and again? So he wanted to say that one of the causes, let's say the positive causes of a parent nagging a child, is because they're worried it's something important, and they're worried they're going to forget. Brush your teeth, brush your teeth, brush your teeth. So they don't really want to brush their teeth, and parents know what's going to happen if you don't brush your teeth. It's important to brush your teeth. Just an example that way. He says, really, our divine parent, Hashem is the perfect divine parent, is saying that when he repeats things, he's trying to say, this is important, and I know you may forget. One of the things Hashem said a lot is the world is good. Every day of creation, the world is good. The world is good. Why? Because in order to give us free will, we can forget how good the world is. Okay? So to here, since being Jewish means we're distinguished, and when you're distinguished, you could be prey to jealousy, negative feelings, and things like this. So Hashem says, how much do I love you? Let me count the way. This is Hashem repeating himself. This is divine words. Hashem is not a poet. He's not Elizabeth Barrett Browning. When Hashem repeats something, it has eternal depth. So Hashem felt it so important to tell us how distinguished we are and how beloved we are to him. That's your word for the table. Look, all right, we're having an identity crisis right now. Okay, we're being shaken up. And the thing we need to know so preciously is that the creator of the world loves us and has distinguished us, and that's never changing, right? 4 times to stress the point. So just remember, the words holy can mean distinguished. And we're being told as a group of people, people identify with their sports teams, their soccer team and their football team. They get such pride and Arsenal won. That's a nod to London. Okay. The Cowboys won. So, we won. The creator of the universe, he thinks we're winning. Okay, that's the word for your table. You are, says Hashem, you are to me, you shall be for me always a distinguished nation. Okay, part 1 is complete. We have a word for the Shabbos table. You can build your identity of you, your family, and your nation. Build it at the Shabbos table by saying, look, the creator of the world says you are so special to me. Okay. Now, let's take a look at the same verse and get a mitzvah for life. Remember, a word for the table and a mitzvah for life. And back to the same words, but we're going to add another dimension. Okay. So that one is Hashem is making a love declaration to us. You shall be a holy people to me forever and ever. That's a drush by the Midrash, by the Zohar, okay? But there's also what's called a Pashat, which means the primary meaning in the context. So according to most commentators, this is a commandment to be holy. It's not just a promise from the Creator that he considers holy and special. We're being commanded to be holy. Now, what we said here, notice, how do you tell what the meaning is in the context? Well, one way is you look at the rest of the verse. You look at the context. So when it opens up and says, "Va'anshe kodesh tiyun li," holy people you should be for me. Be a holy people to me. I command you to be holy. And then it says, don't eat an animal which a predator struck. Don't eat treif food. Okay, that's called treif in Hebrew. Okay, amongst other things. So, what does it mean to be holy in this context? And the idea is really so deep and beautiful. So let me start out with this. I'm going to add on to the word distinguished in English. Kodesh doesn't just mean distinguished, it means exalted. All right? Exalted means something like really high up, right? Okay, exalted, elevated, right? So it's very interesting because even in the parlance of regular human beings and around the world, there is a kind of idea that higher is greater and lower is lowly. Okay, that was so low of him, right? He acted like an animal, right? We see he's an angel, right? So even if, the people that unfortunately haven't discovered that the Torah is actually true and it's prophet, it's a sad, but so they know the concept of an angel, of this exalted spiritual being. You see, I use the word exalted. So that's how we use it because we recognize there's some sort of, now this is to describe spiritual things and it's not real, it's not about height in a physical sense, but height in a physical sense sort of imparts the idea, okay? So there is a scale of exalted to lowly, all right? And let me explain what's on top of the scale. Obviously, Hashem, the creator of the universe, the ruler and king of the universe of universes, right? The one who brought reality into being. There's nothing more exalted than the one who made the entire creation from nothing, okay? Not to mention all the other amazing, glorious things, okay? So on the top of the holy, right, of exalted is Hashem. What's next in line in terms of, let's say, being distinguished, apart from, and exalted? So, in truth, we would have to say, in a certain sense, malachim, angels, right? Wow, he's an angel. An angel implies a certain type of perfection. And the Torah teaches us that angels are like pure intellect and perfection. There's some sort, they're created, so they're not perfect in the way Hashem is, but they are exalted beings, and they are not physical at all. See, here's the point. Physicality and lowliness are part of the fabric of things, okay? So right below, no, not right below. There's no comparison between Hashem and his grace, and please take note of that. So you have Malachim. What comes next, right? What's below there? So let's, sort of as Jewish people, but I'm going to say servants of the Creator, okay? And then there's also humanity at large. Now, humanity at large and the Jewish people, anyone can join, but you don't have to join to be a servant of the Creator. But what is so special about them? We'll get to it in a second. But right, we have Hashem, as if you can't even relate to him in a physical sense. You have Malachim at the top of the hierarchy. You have Torah observant beings, Jews, okay, or levels of it. And then you have human beings that are created in the image of God. Then you have animals, and then you have wicked people. They're the bottom of the heap. Okay. And I have a proof for that. So, what is special about the middle group of human beings created in the image of God and Jews, observant? Okay. The answer is that we are a mix of angel and animal. Okay. And that puts us in a very unique position because we can go up towards Hashem or we can go down below animals. That's the choice human beings have. Okay. So now, when I say go up towards Hashem, I'm not totally again Hashem in His essence totally apart, but I'm not being totally figurative. The Torah declares this. It says, "Be holy, kadosh, because I'm holy." You hear that? So there's when we choose to be holy, we're choosing to exalt ourselves, elevate ourselves far more and more towards angels and even towards Hashem in a manifested way, and farther from the ground, from the animals and lowliness. Okay. And Rabbeinu Yonas teaches us what everyone instinctively said about what Hamas, Yamam Shamam, did on October 7th. They said, to call them beasts or animals is an insult to beasts or animals. When people are cruel and harsh and take innocent people and babies and act that way, they have skipped a level down. They didn't skip down to animal, they went below. And Rabbeinu Yonas says that when we sin, when we go away from the will of God, we are below an animal. We didn't act like an animal, we acted worse than an animal. Okay, so that's my lofty introduction for the mitzvah of being kadosh, to be holy. Okay, so Hashem is, in this understanding, commanding us to be a holy people. So I know you're going to ask me, and you should, how do you do that? So we're going to discuss how to be holy, and that's how we're going to finish. Okay, I don't think we need to see the verse right now. So how do you put this? How do we infuse our beings with holiness? That's what we're going to describe right now. So the truth of the matter is there are, how do I be holy? Let me count thy ways. We have different ways we can be holy, and it's again a scale, all right? So if you look at it again, let's go, we went from top to bottom, right? Hashem, Malachim, angels, Jews, human beings, all in the same area there, animals, and then wicked people, okay? So interestingly enough, this is a positive commandment, and it's mentioned several times, so it's very important. And when you work on being holy, especially we'll get to it, when you have kavanah for being holy, you're going to see that there's a lot of Kedusha that descends on you. Okay, here we go. So the first thing is the theme here, and I think this is worth quoting. By the way, if there's enough interest, and how do you express your interest? You can email me, Rabbi Wegbreit at gmail.com. If there's enough interest, I'm going to create graphic illustrations for all of this. But for now, let me just illustrate it with my hands, okay? But here's a saying that can kind of capture all the mitzvahs in a saying, and then we're going to go into the details of opportunities real quick. This is not going to be taking too much longer. Okay, here's the theme. Just say no to the low. I repeat, just say no to the low. Okay, where's the lowest you can go? We discussed it, to sin, right? So whatever the Torah describes as sin, let me hit people where it hurts, like speaking gossip, speaking negatively, acting inappropriately, not connecting to God when you do mitzvahs. Okay, so wherever the Torah says, no, don't do that, of errors, so by you saying no, you are being holy, okay? So there's a mitzvah of holiness by avoiding sin and doing mitzvahs. All right. The good news is right now, what are we doing? We're learning Torah. And at the whole raison d'etre of Kavanah Mitzvahs is to sanctify, intensify the beauty of what you're doing by adding conscious intention, right? So right now, everybody should have conscious intention. We are fulfilling the mitzvah of learning Torah, but you are also fulfilling the mitzvah of holiness, because whatever the Torah says makes you have a separate commandment of being holy. Okay, so but the point is, the lowest rung is say no to the lowest of the low, which is being wicked. Next, now you have animals, right? So the next set of mitzvahs are just say no to being animalistic. Okay, what do I mean by animalistic? And that's in this verse, is there are certain foods, there's a diet for someone who wants to be holy. Now, just to show you that it's instilled, let's say, in a human being, a diet that shows he's higher than an animal, okay? Animals eat living flesh, right? But unless a person's really messed up, they don't eat living flesh, okay? Okay? So one of the things is we see, and also animals don't eat grass. Why? It's not animal. It's a cat. That's what a cow does. We're not cows. And we're not lions and bears. Okay. So we repulsed by live flesh and grass because we're on a higher level. But then there's the holy diet. That's what kosher is. That's what not eating treif and nevela and kosher food. It's a diet to go even higher than normal with animals. Animals don't have a particular, animals eat a certain thing. We go past that. We avoid any food that makes us more animalistic. That's how the Ramban, for example, explains treif and kosher. We don't eat those foods because Hashem said so, but there's a deep meaning, which is it's a diet. It's a diet for holiness, for ascending, becoming exalting, getting up and closer. Okay, so just say no to sins, one mitzvah, and yes to mitzvahs. Just say no to non-kosher food if you're Jewish. Okay, and if you're not Jewish, don't eat live animals. Living a limb off torn from a living animal. Okay. Just say no to that aspect of an animal. Also, what's another animalistic behavior is to have sexual relations with anyone, even those that the Torah forbids us to have relationships with. An animal is not so discriminating about who it mates with. Okay, I mean, they do mate with the same kind, thank God, right? But they're not like going out and dating and courting and this and that. But the Torah's rules of forbidden sexual relationships is because Hashem commands us to be holy. You're way beyond an animal when you choose what the Torah says is a marital relationship, monogamous marital relationship, with the opposite gender, etc. That's holy. So just say no to forbidden food. Just say no to forbidden relationships. In other words, just say no to the low. Okay. Now, there's one more level. Okay. And ready? Just say no to kosher food in large quantities, meaning even if you're not eating the food of an animal, don't eat like an animal. Don't drink like an animal. Okay, getting drunk is an example of that. Unless it's a mitzvah to get drunk, Purim, etc. So you hear, this is the Rambam says that being holy is not just protecting yourself against forbidden relations, the acts of protection, like guarding your eyes so you don't get caught up in a forbidden relationship, and not going into a restaurant that serves not kosher food. Those are all ways of being holy, but he raises the bar in holiness. He says Hashem also wants to not be indulgent, because when we're indulgent, even though we're eating uh, uh, exalted food, but we're eating it like an animal. Just say no to the low. And you know how far we go? We go past the angels, we soar past them, and we become lahavdil, as if we become more and more like Hashem, okay, if you will. Do you hear this? So that is our, let's just summarize. And then I want to throw down the Kavanah LaMitzvah's challenge for the week. Okay. We're trying to innovate every time, and I have a little bit of an innovation, and I'll explain in a second. But let's just review. Hashem says, "You shall be holy to me," meaning He's saying, "I love you, and therefore you're distinguished from others. I feel love towards you," and He said it a lot. Let your family know. Let's strengthen our identity as people that Hashem has distinguished and loves. Okay, so that's the message for your table. Okay. And very important message for these times. But now, what is the mitzvah for your life is being holy with all its dimensions. So again, being holy, we're commanded to say no to sin and cruelty, etc., right? And yes to Torah. So whenever you do a mitzvah and you avoid doing something nasty, okay, that's a mitzvah of holiness, okay? Next up, just say no to eating like an animal and mating like an animal. Meaning, let's take precautions, because here's the thing. You know why we sail past the angels? They're not made of an animal. As we said, what's amazing about human beings is we have beasts and animals in us. We are partially that, and we're partially angels, okay? But we have a struggle, right? So if we succeed in the struggle, we go sailing past the angels, right? Because that's a magnificent thing, okay? We use our free choice, and that's why we become like Hashem, okay? So when you keep your eyes where they belong and not staring and not, let's say, flirting with the member of opposite sex that you shouldn't have sex with, if you will, okay, that's holy. That's a mitzvah. And we're going to finish by saying, let's have these in mind, okay? And when you say, when you buy kosher food, when you reject the non-kosher offer, if you're Jewish, right, then that's also holy, right? We're going past the animals. And finally, we also don't want to eat like an animal. We don't want to eat animal food, right? But we also food that makes us animalistic, really. Okay. But we also don't want to eat like an animal. We are nobility, right? Holiness and nobility go hand in hand. And a noble person is distinguished and exalted in his behavior. Okay. Now, finally, each week we're picking a mitzvah for life based on the Torah portion. This week's mitzvah is Kedusha, is holiness. And I shared with you several ways to be holy, but if you really want to be holy, sanctify your intentions, right? So when you observe any mitzvah, have in mind this week, just try it this week. I'm doing this because you command me and because I want to fulfill the mitzvah of being holy, right? And when you take precautions about the food and the relations and things like that, have that in mind. When you're careful, when you're on the internet to not look where you shouldn't, have in mind the mitzvah of holiness, have intentions, sanctify your mind, sanctify your intentions. And also, okay, you don't have to not have a donut. Let's use a donut, a sugary kosher donut, but don't have 10 donuts or whatever. Refrain from what's permitted to be like a noble and have that in mind. So if you would like to join us for the Kedusha, the Holiness Week, right? Meaning we're going to work on being mindful of the mitzvahs of Kedusha all week. So if you'd like to join my WhatsApp group, we have a VOD, it's called a WhatsApp VOD, where we work together to help us grow. And so, again, email me at rabbiwegbreit@gmail.com. and we'll add you to the WhatsApp group if you like. And that way we can work on holiness all week and exalt ourselves and exalt the world as well. All right. Thank you very much.